Good morning. This video is all about bedtime routines. Now, when your child starts nursery or reception, it's really important to make sure they have a good bedtime routine in place and that they are getting the recommended amount of sleep. Now, the guidelines state that a child who is between 3 and 6 years old should be getting between 10 to 12 hours a day, 10 to 12 hours of sleep a day. So if we use 7 o'clock in the morning as an example of getting up, if a child is going to bed in time so that they get between 10 and 12 hours of sleep, ideally they need to be asleep from 7 to 9 o'clock at the latest. So the earlier you can get them to bed, the better, because then they're able to get the 10 to 12 hours of sleep that they need for their bodies to be able to function properly the following day. It's just a really good idea that before they start school that this routine's put into place. So going to bed, at a reasonable time at night so they're able to get up in the morning and they're not tired, they're not worn out, they're ready to go, ready to learn. So some parents actually will send their children to bed at, say, 7 o'clock. Sometimes it takes a while for children to fall asleep, so bear that in mind. If it takes your child an hour, 2 hours to fall asleep, then you might need to send them to bed a little bit earlier so they've got that time to wind down. So some parents will send their children to bed at 7, knowing that their child's going to be falling asleep by about 8 o'clock. And some parents find that getting a routine in place helps their child to be able to fall asleep. So, for example, they will have a bath, they will get their pajamas on, they will go to bed, and they will have a story in bed, or they might have a bath, pajamas, story, then bed. Okay, so sometimes having that routine can help your child to fall asleep as well. If you can, so nursery parents, if you can get your child into a routine, an early routine, this would be beneficial, because by the time your child starts reception, they will have got used to that routine of going to bed at 7 o'clock, for example, and then waking up at 7 o'clock ready to get ready for the day, really. Even if your child's in afternoon nursery, it's a good reason to get them into that routine, so that by the time they go into reception, they're already there. You don't have to work at it. In the past, we've had children who go to afternoon nursery, and the children weren't getting up until 11 o'clock in the morning. They would have lunch and they would come to the afternoon session. Of course, they wouldn't be going to bed until, say, 10, 11 o'clock. And yes, they're getting enough sleep, but the body clock of a child who is in that routine is going to be out. But by the time they go to reception and they're expected to eat their breakfast at, say, 7:30 and their lunch and at 11:30, when they're used to having their breakfast about that time. So if you can see, it's just easier on your child if you can get that routine in place when they're at nursery, so that by the time they're in reception, they're already in that established routine at those particular times, which follow on through the day. They're not sort of coming in, and then their body clock's all out of whack. I think that's it, really. It's just about establishing a bedtime routine early on, because obviously children need a lot of sleep. That's the time when you're asleep is when your brain repairs itself, and it packs things away into the different filing systems that it needs to that it needs to do. And if you can imagine, children are learning so much all the time. They just really need all that time asleep for their brains to recoup and get ready for the next day. So yeah, if you need any support, obviously we can help you with that. I just wanted to give you a heads up so that you can start practicing now. Hope it was helpful. Bye bye.